the subject that I to share with you today is how can the funeral director work with a dead doula? How can we benefit from each other's relationship? How can we help each other? What's the difference in between us and you? You know, because our businesses are like directly interrelated with each other. And so a little bit about us. I am the owner of Bell and Bell Funeral Home and Cremations. Myself and my husband run the business on Montgomery Drive. And we can say that we are a little bit less traditional than others in the fact that we really serve all faiths and all races. So we have services of traditional services, non-traditional, natural burials, cremation, memorial services, and you know, pretty much open to work with whatever the tradition of the family is. When I came in, I helped you talking a little bit about cremations and the water cremations, and all that right now, as far as I know, is still not legal in Texas. That's why you probably have not heard about it a lot. A lot more environmental friendly than the traditional cremations, but right now they still have not approved it for the state of Texas. So I heard you talking a little bit about that. And so palliative care is kind of your business, you know, and so really what we are here to do is support you in your area of expertise. And I know that, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys work with patients that are already at the end, or simply with patients that are preparing themselves to get to that end. They're not quite necessarily already there. And so I realized that your services are helpful even to people that are not really necessarily dying yet, but that you simply wish to be prepared ahead of time and arrange their wishes, make sure their families are not stressing at the end, and making sure that their families know everything that they would like. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
And so, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yes, you're correct.
Okay. And so, you know, I think that we all can benefit from having a good working relationship with each other, and really, more than anything, in opening the conversation, because we've been in this business, personally, my husband and I, for at least 25 plus years. And it's still mind-boggling that people prepare for a new baby. People prepare for so many things in life, but yet the conversation about death is still kind of a taboo for many. You know, I teach at San Antonio College, the mortuary science department, and the majority of the new students coming to the program, especially the females, they are like, my family did not want me to do this. They were like, why would you want to do this? And I'm sure that with the death doula, you probably will kind of get a lot of the same. Yet, I think that we both have a very important position in this business of helping people. And so a pre-need funeral plan would be my recommendation for a family that's like, okay, I would like to know what to do about my funeral and where do I start? And so understanding that they are working with you and that they probably will ask you these questions. So I want to share this with you because this is something that they can get from us or from you, you know, but why not look out after the financial aspect of this end of life and make sure you got things in place. When you funeral pre-plan, you get the experience that you want. You get to tell your loved ones exactly how do you want it. You take the time to make choices because those choices are so much more difficult for your family once you are gone and they had no idea what you wanted. And they feel pressure, and sometimes feelings of guilt come into place, and they feel pressure to even select things that they can't even afford, that you probably would have not even approved while you was alive, because they want to give you the best because of all the feelings and all the emotions that go into place. But Pre-arranging ahead of time makes the funeral easier on the family. And if financially is a concern, the financial aspect is a concern, they also have the choice of paying in advance and therefore freezing the cost of the services, which is a smart decision to do at any time, even for people that are not quite at the dying stage yet. Now, with funeral pre-planning, it could be a prepay type of contract, but it also could just be a pre-plan where they decide, we have enough insurance or my family can afford it. I'm not concerned about paying right now. I just really want to just talk about it and tell you and my family what I want so that everything can be in writing. And we take the time to help with that as well. And I'm sure that you guys, are a very important piece of helping families with this area. Now, when the person is already at the very dying stages, very close to the end, we are not able to take their money ahead of time, especially when somebody comes to us and they are already in hospice, where we know that the death is very imminent. So we're not allowed by the state to accept money that is not going to go into either a trust account or some type of insurance funded plan. The funeral home personally cannot just take the money and just hold it because we know this person will die in a week or two. We really have had hospice patients that 2 years later are doing better, so you never know. But we do have the option of offering an annuity, which we can sell in the state of Texas legally and still go ahead because we realize that there are people that have special accounts set up that once they die, the accounts are frozen and there's nothing else they can do at that point until the will is probated or whatever. And so it will tie up the money. And even though they have the money right now, once the person died, they will not. So having an annuity that is irrevocable, that will only be able to be taken out if the person died, will be the option that we can offer as well if the financial area is a concern. And so, what's the difference in between your home funeral or a regular funeral? Obviously the personal touch of dying at home around your family with your loved ones in an area that is familiar to the people is one of the things that you do. And also one of the things that hospice, was initially funded upon, like, okay, we want to allow people to die in a dignified manner at home, surrounded by their families. But when the families ask me, what's your preference? There's a funeral with pictures and cameras clicking and everybody wants to get and so really and truly, the funeral is going to be for the living. It's not for the dead. So your customers will probably just want to make sure their families are okay. And the families need to be able to have the conversation with you to decide, what is it that we need? Do we need a home funeral followed by, a home experience followed by the very big funeral, because we still want to give the community the opportunity to say goodbye as well and everything? Or is it okay for the funeral home to just come right away and pick me up and then let's have the big funeral? These are conversations that need to be, that the people have to have with their loved ones. But when you plan ahead of time, there are so many aspects of this that you can help your family with, that later on is so much. Like, this is a sample of a funeral program. I mean, down to, if you are very into details, you might want to pick your picture ahead that you want to put in the front, because you don't want to put the picture where you was wearing rollers in your head and all of that, you don't want to be 75 years old and they put your picture from your 16th birthday party. Oh, you want that, all of that kind of things. And so when it comes to the obituary part, although this is kind of small and I'm trying to make it a little bigger and I can't, you see all the paragraphs that are written. It's like your whole life story into one, half a page, depending what type of program you want. And so you want the important things that matter to be said about you. And sometimes the simple things as the people that died ahead of you, the people that are surviving you, but you know, your children might not know the story of their grandparents and the uncles that die ahead of time and all of that. And so when you prearrange and you have these conversations with your family, you know, you have the opportunity to even do that. There are also different type of that you can plan ahead and kind of be prepared. You know, these are very popular, the memorial blankets that, you know, people can have so many different putting so many different things put into it, pictures, scriptures, and then you have other products for depending on the religion, such as prayer cards. I mean, down to what kind of prayer or poem or something you will like. This is just a sample. You know, that goes with your religion. If you want to do cremation, what type of urn do you want? A personalized urn? This is an urn, right, on this picture. Do you want a personalized urn, or do you want, you know, to be your ashes to be taken out to the sea, or, you know, what do you want? um, Military services will have to concern ourselves not only with the funeral home, but also with the military cemeteries and where is all of your paperwork, because we get that a lot. People that come and even though they are retirees or veterans, they have no idea where the discharge papers are, the DD-214s. And so depending on how long ago they were in the service, it could be easier or less easy to handle all of those arrangements. You know, so these are all of the conversations that in between the dead doula and the funeral director, you know, it might be something that you know that I'm missing, but I might have something that I know that you are missing, and we could help each other so that when we get to this end, it's easy cruising for everybody. So I think that you service your customer by doing that, and we, you know, service ours as well. You have any questions?
I have a question. If one decides to do a green burial, how long can they wait before they make that decision?
When a person originally dies, we are going to ask what type of service you are doing and do we have permission to embalm. But if you are doing a green burial, you do not have, you know, you will not embalm. So legally, 48 hours is the waiting period, but we can request a permit that will waive the 48 hours. So sometimes sometimes it is the fact of coordinating with the cemetery and the grave diggers and everything, but we can still make it happen by refrigeration, keeping the body in refrigeration without having to embalm until all of the moving parts. Sometimes depending what day of the week, because if the person dies on a Saturday morning, for example, the cemetery might or might not accommodate a Sunday right away, you know. So it really depends on the cemetery that you're working with and the grave diggers that we need to reach out to and see how fast they will accommodate as well.
And if you choose to have a forensic burial, do you still get in touch with the funeral home or do you go through another agency?
Forensic, you mean as donating your body?
Yes, that's the one where that's a new one that I've heard about. Where you donated to a school or to a or a forensic school or program, and they just put it out in the elements and all. So do you still have to go through a funeral director?
In that case, they have one very close to us. It's called a body farm in New Braunfels, right? San Marcos. I'm asking Mr. Bell for a little help on this one. In San Marcos, I believe you go directly through that organization. They have the registration to do the certificates and everything.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, they have license. They have licensed people on staff with contracts to do the removals and everything.
Okay. Thank you.
You have a lot of people requesting that now?
No, because we've just heard about it. I've been doing some research on it, and I haven't gotten a lot of information on it because it's so limited. So we haven't at this point given much information to our students about I call it forensic burials, but what did you call it? The body farm?
It's a donation. They call it the body farm. I will give you the information.
Okay.
We are, well, pre-pandemic, we were able to do a field trip with our students to that area. So I don't know, what would they require for you to do that, but maybe I can give you a point of contact that you can reach out to them and see, or even if they just come speak at one of your classes and provide you further information, they probably will be the best point of contact for that.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Now, one thing that does happen almost every time, especially if the person don't die at home and end up having to die at a hospital, is that they will reach out to the families for donating corneas and donating organs and donating bone, skin. Even if it doesn't specify on your driver's license whether you were donor or not, they normally reach out to the families anyway. And I think that's also a conversation that needs to be had for families to understand what goes into that, because I often get families that give permission right away, but they don't really realize, are not really aware of what they gave permission. Sometimes they are a little disappointed. So, yeah, a lot of times the families are not realizing what they are authorizing. And so sometimes when they are very interested in having a service with a viewing, sometimes they are a little bit disheartened or, upset about the extension of what was done to the loved one before they had that funeral. So I think that a good ahead of time conversation explaining all that goes into that will probably cure some of that. Because I think that a lot of times they are like, oh, well, we just want to help. I understand, but how is that affecting your service after? I'm not saying one way or the other. It's definitely the people's choice, but just know what your choice is, because when the hospital asks you or they ask you and you say yes, but you don't really know what you're saying yes to, sometimes people, they are a little bit disheartened, but just don't feel okay about their decision after the fact, and there's nothing you can do after the fact.
So when there is an organ donation, does it affect the appearance? I don't know whether you covered that. Does it affect the appearance of the body?
It doesn't always affect the appearance, but it definitely will incur into extra charges for us, which is what people are not always sure. Because especially when they do like a donation of bones, all long bones are removed from arms and legs. So it's almost like an autopsy. Almost. And then we are having to do a lot of additional work to repair that. When the skin is donated, the entire back, the skin, a pretty thick, the entire back is removed all the way from the top of the back to your buttocks. And so the body will then have to be placed in plastic, which will not allow the family to like have clothes that are cut up or anything. They will have to wear something very cover up, that kind of things, and I'm not saying that it's not okay to do it. All I'm saying is that it is a conversation that should be had so that people understand when they make that choice, what will entail, and not be surprised. The corneas is very non-invasive and very easy to repair. But when we go into bones and we go into skin, it's a lot.
Okay, that's interesting.
Now, it is also good to know that the bank, the tissue bank and the eye donation bank, if there are additional charges and the family requests reimbursement or the funeral home will request payment for part of the work that we have to do, they will pay the funeral home for some of that. you know, but if we don't know ahead of time, sometimes we don't know,
Mhm.
you know, until it's too
Mhm.
late.
Okay, that's good to know. That's very good to know. So if a person wants to do a home funeral, can they still donate or be an organ donator or skin or bone donator if they want to do a home funeral?
So it depends, because they have to do the donation within a certain amount of hours, or the body will have to stay in refrigeration. Other
Ah,
than that, they cannot harvest organs or tissue that will be useful. So
okay.
they have to do it within a certain time of time. So they have to put the body in refrigeration if they're not able to give right away. So if you want to do a home funeral where you are keeping the body at home, washing and dressing yourself at home, and then have the funeral home come pick up 12 hours later, then it's probably going to be too late for donation then.
Ah, okay. Okay.
Now, if you are wanting for the funeral home to come pick up, they're going to do the donation, and then the funeral home is going to possibly at this point then embalm and dress and bring the body back to the house to have a home service. Then that
Ah,
way it will be possible.
okay. But that would be added expense also.
Yes,
Okay. Okay.
yes, definitely. Yeah, because it's really just like a funeral then, you know? As
Okay.
price wise, it's just like a regular funeral. And then on top of that, we go into the home for whatever amount of time it is. Once we take custody of the body, then a funeral director, staff from the funeral home will remain with the body throughout the time.
Oh,
Even if
okay.
they have even if they bring the body back to the home to have a service at the home, the funeral
Correct.
director has to stay. Okay, because you have custody of the body.
Correct. Anything that happens with the body is on us then, you know? So normally the families that choose to do the at-home services will call us and let us know that the death happened. We make sure the death is clear with the medical examiner, but the body will stay home. The family had dressed, cleaned, and spend the time within the first 12, 24 hours, and then let us know, we want you to pick up at this time. And then we come do the removal.
Can you, is there at-home burials or, and if that's the case and that's an option, how do you reach a grave digger, or how does that work?
For a home burial, the family will have to have it's a permit, right? Yeah, they have to have a permit on their property if they have their own property, that area is designated as a cemetery. Because even in the future, if they sell that land, they will always have to allow access to that area where the cemetery is set up. So as long as the family have that, the grave digging is really up to the family. They can dig their own grave, or we can get a grave digger.
But it has to be at a specific depth, correct?
Correct, correct. So it has to be the 6 feet that we talk about. And really the outer burial container is up. If they doing it on their own property, is up to them. Really, most families that select to do their own property will most likely be doing natural burials anyway.
Now you said 6 feet, okay? Because we had a family from church, and we contacted a green burial, a lady that does green burial, and she said that because it was their infant, the baby died
Stillbirth.
stillbirth, right? And they buried the baby at home on their property. They have a farm, and they buried the baby at home. And she said they needed to bury the baby at least 4 feet deep, because it was a green burial. And every, she said if they did it deeper,
Green burials.
if it was deeper than 4 feet, then she said because it has something to do with the decay.
With the way of the soul arising.
Yeah.
My husband teaches this part of the class. And so he's saying 3.5 to 4 feet for green burials.
Okay.
Because of the weight of the soil turning and the soil arising. 3.5 to 4 feet deep for green burials.
Okay. So now okay, say my backyard. And I want, of course, I got dogs and cats back there, dogs and chickens. But now say, this is our house. This is, we bought this house 20 something years ago, and we plan on keeping it in the family. So if we wanted to be buried in our backyard, can we do that?
Not on residential area, right?
Okay.
No, not on a residential area. Yeah, it has to be farmland, and it has to be the area already like deeded for that. You have to get a special permit
Okay.
for that.
Very good. Very good.
If
So I
we go
guess
to
I can't
that,
bury my
people
boys
bury a
back.
casket all in the backyard. The
He
cemetery
buried
gonna
my
charge how much? Never mind. You're going in the backyard.
That's awesome.
Oh my goodness. This
Yeah.
has been most interesting. Ah,
May I ask one more question in regards to the water burial? I have not heard of that. I don't know what that is. So I know that it's not approved in Texas yet, but what is that?
So what it is, it's like a long capsule.
Mhm.
Instead of the retorts that they use at the crematory, they have this long capsule. And so the water is the one that actually breaks down the body. And the results of it, what the family gets back, is very similar to what you get back from a regular cremation. But it's just a different process. I don't know what is not approved yet, because it is, the research on it is so much more environmentally friendly. But as of right now, they still have not. Is it approved in California? Right? Not sure. He's not sure on that one. I believe California is like one of the few states that is doing it as of right now. It is a little bit more cost effective even than the cremations, because the retorts use gas and these will just use electricity. They don't even need to use the gas. So eventually, yeah, it's a water cremation. Eventually, when it becomes widely accepted, it will be a way to even save the families a little bit more money, because it should be even less expensive than cremation.
And I know that this is a really wild question, but just out of curiosity. So the water that is used for that cremation, is that water that is also, how does that get disposed of? Or what is does it just go into the sewer? Does it get,
Honestly, I don't know the answer of that one. But that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, it's probably the same system as we do for embalming, that has like a flow meter that disposes of it. Yeah, so it's probably the same type of system, but I'm not totally familiar with that. I think that is something that I'll probably get a little bit more information, and I can shoot an email that you can share with everybody.
all right. That's
Because it
very
would be nice
interesting.
if that water could go back on the grass or put it in my plants, part of nature. I don't want to waste
Or
the water.
recycle it some
Probably,
kind of
honestly,
way.
very clean water after going through all that. It's a chemical, yeah, that is added to the water, yeah. So, but it's probably very, very safe. What you get back from a regular cremation are very pure ashes, and it's the same with the water cremation.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Miss Jennifer. You had all the hard questions today.
I'm sorry.
This is good. I really believe that in between your industry and ours, it just really is more conversation is needed. And I understand that you might work with a funeral director that is a little bit old school. I might not necessarily see you as a help. I might see you as an intrusion instead. I don't know if you have had any experiences with that. You haven't? I have had like a few people comment, that they were not as welcome because they think they might see you as trying to take over, where it's not that. I think we just need to talk about, we definitely could benefit from each other.
100%.
From helping each other, because we are both in people business and we are both on the end of life business. And the more services that we can provide to our families, the best.
100%.
we try to even stay in touch with counselors that can help the families with grief counseling after the fact. And I know that you guys do as well. And sharing our resources with each other will definitely be beneficial.
Yes, yes.
And so I also hear of some funeral homes, you know, when they bring together families and they talk about the different packages that are available and the prep work that kind of goes into it. I can also see how that would be of benefit to be able to have a death doula with, or an end-of-life doula, depending on how anybody wants to be called, to be present, to be able to also help with that process of being able to be of support so that they know that that's an option for them when they are going through that transition. And so it doesn't necessarily have to be so jarring, whether it's for somebody that is a friend and or a loved one, or even themselves. I mean, I think oftentimes people are kind of stymied when it comes to this life, this work, this industry. So I can definitely see how it can be a collaborative experience.
So I have a question for you. Are your services like covered through insurance?
No.
I
No,
actually have an insurance agency that's asking me to be able to start preparing that information. As a matter of fact, they want to start bridging because a lot of insurance companies are looking to be able to provide more homeopathic opportunities because they're doing research and they're trying to broaden that. So they're trying to offer their individuals different opportunities. And so they brought that to my attention and I'm like, well, I better get myself getting going. So that I enrolled in this program. So yes, insurance companies are starting to become more interested. And yes, I do have somebody that is ready to start making those connections happening. And it's also like, well, when do they start asking for the end-of-life doula to step in to help with this process even before hospice, so that they can start, you know, preparing for, you know, either getting back on their feet, like more of the palliative care, and or to assist with the hospice aspect of it. But when do you jump in, and what do you offer, and how does that structure of income work? You know, when does it get submitted? How much are your fees and such things like that? And being able to bridge those gaps. So yes, it is starting to come. I just don't know. I don't have the answer quite yet. I'm creating it.
Okay. No, but that's great. That's great to know, because I can see how, you know, we do get these questions asked and how I could send somebody, but financially, you know, what are their options? Do they get to use their insurance, or do they need to be prepared to pay out of pocket and all of that? I mean, we do have a lot of people here that have no family that are trying to go through these along, and it's a good thing to know that they don't have to.
And a lot of people are confused, especially when it comes to this time frame, because they also sometimes feel like they're paying for a friend, or they're paying for something of that nature, and it's not really that. And so it's being able to get past that stigmatism as well, knowing that they have somebody that really. Did I freeze?
Yeah.
Okay,
Just
sorry.
a little bit, yeah.
So they know that they have somebody that's there by their side, and that really genuinely wants the very, very best for them. So crazy that it's well, anyway, I don't need to go into that.
Yeah. I definitely appreciate you, because I think that us taking care of somebody that's dying could be seen as a what do you call it, interest, a double interest, you know. A conflict of interest.
Conflict of interest, yeah.
My English
Yes.
went away for a second. A conflict of interest, but you know, having somebody like you that can provide the support and stay with them until it's time for us to step in. You know, it's just a great resource to have.
I have a question on cost. I know in the old days that the funeral director took care of the insurance issues for the burial. And the families didn't have to pay because the funeral director was going to bill or send the forms in to the insurance company. I heard through the grapevine that that's not so now. is that still a policy, or does the family have to submit or pay first and then they get reimbursed from insurance, or how does that work now?
But the funeral homes are still able to submit for the insurance for the family. What happening is that oftentimes we charge a processing fee because we have a third party company that will verify everything, ensure that the money is secure, and make the service happen. And then once the certificates come in, because this process could take, depending on the insurance company, 2 to 3 months sometimes. And so what was happening that the funeral home used to have to front all the money and wait to get paid back. And then, you know, things happen. The insurance company make a mistake and send the family the check instead of the funeral home, regardless that they had the paperwork. And the family don't always come back knowing that it was wrong to give the funeral home the money. And so by using a third party processing company, we eliminate all of that. And so if something happens like that, if mistakes like that happen, the contract at the end of the time will be for paying back will be between the family and that company instead of between the family and us. You know, and so the liabilities for us are kind of released, but you know, with that processing fee, and make sure that things happen. I mean, sometimes family even need money for you know, upfront out of their policy, and so they can do that with the processing company as well.
Okay. Now, is that individual funeral homes, or is that a standard procedure that you can go through the funeral home?
It is pretty standard. Not all funeral homes charge the processing fee.
Okay.
Some funeral homes might have that processing fee into their basic services already.
Okay.
You know, but then their services might be a whole lot more, you know, elevated financially than others. You know, we choose to be clear and just explain to the family upfront of the 5% processing fee.
Okay.
But really, it clears the family of having to do claims later. You know, we will do all of the claims for the family, and they are oftentimes done right there when we are at the table. Claim forms, all paperwork done. So when the death certificates come in, we submit. And so whatever money is left over that they did not utilize with the funeral home, they'll get a check directly from the insurance company without worrying about this paperwork anymore.
Okay.
You know, because we do this every day and they don't. And you know, if you submit your claim form incorrect, you're doing your own claims and it's incorrect, they'll send it back and tell you got to do it again, and it can become very frustrating.
Okay. So that's something that we need to let the families know who submits the claim.
We do it now. There are families that choose not to pay the 5% and choose to pay out of pocket, and they do their own claim, and that's their choice.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. One more thing that I think that you really need to share with your families is that when you are already at the end of life, and you know, you don't know how much longer you have, but you're not sure you have 2 years, going to a funeral home and doing a pre-need is a lot more advantageous than trying to get a life insurance, in which you have to go through all of the underwriting, and they will probably charge you so much more because of your medical conditions. And then after you pay all of that, you don't make it 2 years and your policy is still contestable. They're not going to pay. And a lot of families don't understand that. They thinking, I bought this policy, I'm good. I have families show up to the funeral home with a policy they bought a month or 2 ago and thinking that they are covered. Because the insurance agent told them they are covered. And they are not. It's contestable. You know, so had you put that same money into freezing the price of your service, then you probably was 5 steps ahead.
Okay.
Than wasting your money on the life insurance at this point.
Okay. So there is really a difference between a pre-need policy and just a life insurance policy.
It is. You will pay a life insurance policy until the day you die. You have a 2 years contestability in which they, a lot of times, just choose to just return the premiums that you pay minus a fee. So you just gave them some money. You know, and really, what is your purpose at the end of the day? If you have 5 children and you want to make sure they all have a little change when you're gone, then you might choose to buy a life insurance policy so that they can have money left once you are gone. But if your only end and concern is to make sure that your services are taken care, then you will be better off going to a funeral home and selecting your services and freezing that price.
Okay. Thank
Now,
you.
also with a funeral plan, you can select to pay it all at once. You can pay it in 1, 5, 7, or 10 years. So you can pick the plan that you want. But whenever the terms ends of what you selected, you are finished paying.
Okay.
As opposed to a life insurance that you will continue to pay until the day you die.
Okay.
So that is also a big difference that, you know, and I always tell my families, I sell pre-need life insurance. You know, I sell the funeral plan where you can come and you can look and you can select what you want. But that doesn't say that I'm going to tell you buy this versus the other one. I just lay it out for you and it's your choice. If you think that you are young and you're in pretty good health and you rather have $30,000, $40,000 to give your kids instead of freezing the cost of the price, you know, then hey, that's your route to go. You know, but it's really, really your choice.
All right. All right. Thank you so much. You have been most informative and educational. I learned a lot.
Hopefully we can share, you know, this kind of information. Miss Sonia, she always helps with our classes at school as well. She's so helpful, you know, so I just wish to do the same and help you guys. If should you ever have any questions directly, please reach out to me. If I don't know, my husband normally do. And if we don't, then we'll look it up for you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I'll be looking forward to getting the information on the forensic burial.
Yes, I will look a little bit more information of that for you. And
Okay.
I will send Miss Sanya the information
Yes.
for the body farm that you guys can reach directly and see if they'll allow you a tour or something.
Are there
Okay.
multiple body farms around the United States? Does every state have
Oh.
like lots of body farms?
A lot of them are like attached to a university.
Okay.
So yeah, yeah,
I'm
there are
fascinated.
definitely.
I didn't even know that existed. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry. I'm not giggling
Yeah.
because I think that it's funny. I'm just like blown away. I'm flabbergasted.
Well, like even at San Antonio College, we have for our anatomy classes, we have 5 tanks, 3 tanks. How many tanks we got? 3. The tanks for the bodies? 4. We got 4 tanks. And so every semester we rotate. And so we get a new body. And it's an actual human body that the students get to dissect and, you know, look at every muscle, every artery, every vein and learn. And so we are one of the few schools around that have that. So sometimes even some of the medical schools come to us for that.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by anatomy. It makes me so happy.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, Miss Sonia.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, Mrs. Bell and Mr. Bell, for
He's behind the scenes.
for being our guest speaker. I learned a lot.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
I'm glad we had this time. Thank y'all so much for
I
having
really
us.
appreciate it. Thank you so much. And you
Thank
know what?
you.
If there aren't any more questions for Mr. and Mrs. Bell, then we can end our class. And
You gonna control your face.
I know we got to see you, Mr. Bell. Hello. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much, you two.